welcome to another episode of The Verdict. I haere ake nei, we are discussing Poitarawhiti Netball. The ANZ Premiership takes off this weekend and we have two topics that we would like to discuss. The first of it being, who do we see as our grand finalist winners this year, and also coaches, who is sitting in the hot seat. Before we get into it though, let me introduce to you my guests today. First up, as always, Goran Paladin.
Rav, thanks for having me back. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You're helping me pay the bills.
And your Netball Zone partner in crime and former Silver Fern Courtney Tairi.
Thank you for having me. I know we're usually a partnership, so I'm not worried about going against each other. I'm sure we'll still be friends at the end of this.
Goran's actually making this a habit of bringing in his on-screen partners and debating them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's quite interesting. Courtney and I have been on the same show for, what, 5 weeks running, Warriors TV. We haven't been in the same room at the same time together, so this is quite unique.
It's quite nice.
Yeah. And, Netball Zone returns on Monday night, so Courtney and I will be there. Where are we, actually? Is it out West Auckland somewhere?
Yeah, we're out at Trust Stadium for the game out there.
Well, at least one of you know where you're
exactly. At least one of us will be there.
Flick him a text.
There's 5 days. I've got 5 days to research where I'm going. Give me a break.
This is how it works, Rav. You would know. This is how it works. Someone's got to be the backbone.
I don't even have shoes on.
Not surprising. Okay,
Look at that. There we go.
Oh, no.
We wouldn't have it any other way.
No.
Okay, now before we get into it, I'll give a quick rundown on how this will work. So I have already stipulated our topics for today, but I will repeat them. Then you will state briefly which side of the fence you will be on. After that, you'll get the opportunity to put forward any evidence or your expert opinion on why you think...
Just directed at me.
Why did you point solely at Courtney then?
I'll say it again, former Silver Fern.
Yeah.
And you will plead your case as to why you think your side of the fence is the correct one. Feel free to rebut against each other at any point. We want a clean, hard fight.
Okay.
Okay.
For the record, I did play a little bit of mixed indoor netball going back a few years. So.
Okay, you kept that up your sleeve.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But I don't think it's going to help today.
Was that at expert level or no?
No, it was at a very amateur level, Courtney.
Just clarifying.
Yes. Okay, so let's get into it. Case number 1. Of the 6 franchises, who do you see right now on paper taking out the grand final? Courtney, we'll start with you.
I'll start, shall I? For me, it has to be the Robin Hood Northern Stars. I think they've recruited really well whilst maintaining some of their roster, but their spine is made up of Maya Wilson, Gina Crampton, and bringing back Anna Harrison. So when you've got those 3 holding down the key areas of the court, I think they can go all the way.
Okay. And of course, there's probably your allegiance to the Stars as well.
Yes, I
which,
play for them as well.
Is clouding your judgment.
Exactly.
I'm going to say the tactics. They went to a grand final last year. I don't know if the pulse will be anywhere near as good as they were last year and the year before that. So with limited change to their squad, lock in Marianne Delaney-Hoshek's tactics for the win.
I'm very excited about this quarter because both teams are looking super sharp this year. So, who wants to kick us off?
Courtney, go on.
I'll go with it. Look, I think Northern Stars recruited really well, starting with Gina Crampton. She's a world champion. She'll hold down the mid-court. And then they've got quite a few of players to select from, Lisa Mather, Mila Rueli-Buchanan. So their mid-court sorted. What I like about the Northern Stars through their recruitment is everyone's fighting for a spot. I don't think we'll know who will be their solid starting 7. They might know already, but I think look from the outside in and looking at them on paper, they're still going to be figuring it out. Then Maya Wilson. I mean, she's going to dominate that circle, shooting at over 90%. And just the experience, we've seen her grow. And when she played for the Silver Ferns in the black dress, she really stood up when she needed to. And then Anna Harrison, 88 test caps for the Ferns, but bringing someone like her back, the experience that she has, but I know Anna, and she has a very high level. And so bringing someone like that into the Stars, especially with some of the younger players, they'll look at her and go, okay, we need to go from here up a whole other level. And she won't accept anything that's of low standards. And I think Kiri Wills, the coach, was really smart by bringing that in. And I think Kiri knows you do need that kind of experience. When she did take the Stars to the grand final, she brought back, or had Liana de Brain. She also had Temapata there. So she knows you kind of need that old experienced head that will just lift everyone up. But yeah, with those three running through the spine of the Stars, I think it'll be great. And they also have Ellie Tamu as well, who's moved up from the Pulse. So hopefully she'll be in their starting 7 to hold it down with Anna Harrison at the back.
All really good points. Can't really argue with them. But I suppose when you put a bunch of new faces in a squad, it does take time for those new faces to gel with the rest of the squad and get in sync with their systems. And so this is why I say the tactics, because they're largely unchanged. Their one in is Karen Berger, who's won back-to-back titles with the Central Pulse. She's going to be in partnership with Jane Watson. Like, that is a really fearsome partnership underneath the hoop for them. And I think because of that continuity, that's what gives them the edge above anybody else in the competition. They know exactly who's going to be where. They've gone through a full season. Bringing in Karen will only strengthen the squad. Yeah, they lose Temalisi Whakahokatau to Magic, but yeah, I really like the look of that defensive end, and I mean, I'm a huge Karen Berger fan actually. So she's
So you
tall.
followed her down south.
She's tall. She's athletic. She's an Energizer bunny. And yeah, for those reasons alone, I think that is what will take them to the final and will win. I reckon the Stars and possibly the Mystics, if they can click, they are the two teams that will rival them. I reckon the Pulse and the Magic and Steel will probably fall by the wayside. But yeah, for me, it's like, who will lose to the Tactics in the final, and it might be the Stars, could be the Mystics.
No, I think the Stars will beat them. Like, when you look at it, and it's exciting for the Silver Ferns because you've got Maya Wilson, and then you're going to throw Monica Faulkner in there as well, and working with Gina. Like, your defensive end for the Tactics up against my attacking end for the Stars, I think the Stars will win.
Really?
Down that end, yeah,
I don't
definitely.
know about that.
I do.
Well, you don't think Jane Watson's up to much?
Well, she can,
Is that what
but
you're saying?
no, she can. But I mean, Maya, when she's shooting at 90%, who's stopping her? Jane, possibly, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think for a full match. And then Karen, do you put her in at goal defence or wing defence? Where are you placing her?
Chuck her in the circle.
Yeah. Up against Monica Faulkner. See, then they'll just outrun each other, I think, as well. They'll just run each other to the ground. And then you're going to have Gina, who's so crafty. She will run that attack in.
Oh, is she as energetic as Kimi Orapoi, though? Because
Gina?
Yeah. They're very similar, obviously.
Very
and
similar.
Gina's got the runs on the board that Kimi Ora doesn't. I know she's been in the Silver Ferns mix recently, but you know, she's still up and coming. But I mean, she's everywhere.
She is, but if Kimmy's playing in the centre, she doesn't have as much impact down the attacking end. Whereas Gina, because she's specialist wing attack, she's going to be feeding those balls.
So it's more of an alley problem.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, exactly.
Well, she goes okay as well. Look, I mean, and as I say, you know, the tactics are almost set in stone. You introduce the championship winning Karen Berger, and I think they just continue to get better. And even though the Stars have done well to add the likes of Crampton and Harrison to their roster, I think it is going to take some time before they understand what each other does. And yeah, it's the tactics all day for me, all day, every day.
When I look at the Stars, I see, in my opinion, Gina Crampton has been the pickup of the season of any team. And if anyone can feed those shooters, she can, especially with 4 shooters with the Stars to choose from. That would confuse the heck out of any team. But you can't discount the Tactics, who have built that combination. It's strong, but again, if they turn up, they will blow teams out of the water. At this moment in time, I would say, based on players, Stars.
Rav, I knew you had it in you, definitely. I also, talking about, I also thought, how good is it going to see Anna Harrison up against Tapaya and Ellie Bird? Like, she's going to ruffle some feathers down there, and they don't like that. So that'll be a great contest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I just can't wait for it to begin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be good.
You talk about the tactics and being able to turn up. I think it was the last netball zone we did last year. We went down to Wellington, and the Tactics smoked the Pulse in the opening quarter.
Yes.
You know what?
On their home court.
The Tactics 100% have it in them.
Yeah.
My one thing is, though, if you put the 7 out there and one of those 7 don't take the court 1 week, in comparison to the Stars' bench power as well as their 7, I think they're a bit stronger in that respect.
I respect your decision.
Friends?
I'm going, yeah. I agree to disagree.
In a good way.
Yeah,
I agree. Like, this is going to be just one heck of a competition and cannot wait. Who knows? Will it even be these 2 teams? We don't know.
Could be steel magic.
That's
Well, I didn't write the magic off.
Yeah, that's right.
I did.
Okay, and Whānau at home, what do you think? Who do you think will take out the ANZ Premiership Grand Final? Leave us a comment below and let us know. Now, let's get into case number 2. Now, we're getting into it with this kaupapa, I feel. Which head coach in the ANZ Premiership is sitting in the hot seat or has the most to prove in 2021? Interesting question, this one.
I'm going to the Mystics, and I'm saying that Helene Wilson has the most to prove. She's been in the position four seasons now, entering her 5th, and we actually need to see something from the Mystics. I know that we've just sat here and basically written who's in the grand final, but you know, look, it's not. We haven't even seen a ball being passed yet, so there's a lot of water to run under the bridge. We need to see something from the Mystics. Otherwise, I wonder where Helene Wilson ends up beyond this season.
Okay.
I'm looking at the Pulse, Gail Parata. They're going for a 3-peat, but she comes in back from overseas, back from the UK. She's coached international teams like Scotland. So she's got a great coaching resume. You can see why they picked her. She's close with Yvette McCausland-Drury, but I mean, she's got a new roster, 50% new roster as well. And so they're big shoes to fill with Gail. So I'm interested to see how she goes first time in the ANZ Premiership.
Oh, you can't say she's got the most to prove, though. That's rough, given that she's new to the polls. They've won back-to-back titles. There's no Katrina Rore. She's not going to be involved in the season. Yeah, she'll be around training when she can be. They've lost the magnificent Karen Berger to the Tactics. Tiana Maturau, the super sub, she's gone to Steel. So there is so much movement and pieces of the jigsaw missing.
She still has 5 players that have won those championships that will be in her starting 7. Throw in Whitney Sooners coming home as well. So she's already got 5 players out there. And then, like, if you think about it, they've created a legacy now at the Pulse, I believe, or they've started to. When a new coach comes into the All Blacks, they're expected to win, right? I think a new
Ian
coach...
Foster didn't.
Well, they're expected to. They're expected to live up. They're expected to live up to it. That's what we expect from the Pulse now. And so I think someone coming in, they know what they're in for, and then she knows that that's where she has to take them.
Yeah, but it's her first crack, and this is why I say Helene Wilson, because she's been around long enough to have done something with this side. She works with a netball team in the biggest city in New Zealand. And to be bereft of finals action for as long as they have been, I think it's almost criminal. Like, we're not going to lock you up, Helene, but I mean, you've got to do something. 2017 was the last time they were in an elimination final, and it's been nothing since. I mean, you've got to go back to 2015 to see the Mystics on top of a New Zealand conference, and that was when we were in the ANZ Championship, when we were playing against Australia. So, you know, that's like 6 years ago, for goodness sake. In 2019, they got off to a terrible start. I think they were 0-5 to begin the season, or maybe even got to 0-6, and she was under the pump then. Last season, and they finished last, mind you, in 2019. Last season, they were given a massive step up, if you like, a foot up, with so many games in Auckland, at Auckland Netball Centre, and they still finished outside of the top 2. So
They weren't close, though.
they went close, yes,
It was
granted.
neck and neck.
Yeah.
It was neck and neck.
They
We'll
went
give them
close.
that.
But then I think they were still like something like 7 points off second spot when it all came down to it. And I know that, you know, the finals got rejigged and shuffled because of the situation that we were faced with last year. But you know, to give yourself a decent enough chance of winning the competition, you need to finish in the top 2. They didn't do that, and they had everything in their favour. You know, they were sleeping in their beds, their own beds, for the majority of the season. They couldn't do it. This year, they strengthened their squad. I think they've stolen a couple of players from the Stars and
Yes,
Ioane
they have. That's
right.
and
Yeah.
Burley. They've got the magnificent Abweze.
Yeah.
She's an absolute beast. So they've got the cattle. They've got some really good players as well. Bailey Mez will return.
She will. Yes.
We didn't see her. We don't know where
Sound
Mickey
like a big-
Sockbeats is.
big point.
Yes.
Michaela Sokolic-Beatson, for those who don't know who Mickey Sockbeats is.
Nickname basis now. These days.
Yeah, we're great friends. We're not. She doesn't know who I am. And, like you can't discount another season of progression for Grace Nueke. She's a real threat under the hoop, even though she can miss the odd close one from time to time. Helene Wilson's got some really good jigsaw puzzle pieces. Can she make it all fit? Can she get them deep into the finals? I think she has the most to prove without a shadow of a doubt.
And what if she doesn't?
Well, then she's gone.
Yeah.
Then she's gone and somebody else has to come in, because I think 5 years is long enough. 5 years is plenty long enough. I know that it's you're sort of walking on thin ice when you start to criticise, but I think you just need to be honest about things and say it's an Auckland team in the biggest city in New Zealand. We haven't seen finals netball since 2017. Things need to change, and if they don't, then unfortunately her head has to be on the chopping block. And I don't think you can say that about anybody else in the competition when it comes to coaches.
True.
Yeah.
Although
I'd have to agree with that too.
still in Magic, they've had the same coaches for a little while.
But yeah, I suppose the difference with the Steel is they've had a more recent history of success. So you can almost afford them a dip off,
Right.
in form.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning of the Premiership, year 1, year
Yes.
2, I think, which year were they unbeaten through the whole
Yes.
season?
Yeah.
They had their, and then the tides turned with the Pulse coming in after them.
Yeah. And I mean,
So they
look,
have been up there.
you're always going to go downhill fast when you take Wendy Frew out of the equation, right?
Right, the Queen of Invercargill. I wonder if her sign's still there when you're driving into Invercargill. It's like Wendy.
It better be.
Welcome
when
to Invercargill.
When we turn up later in the
Yeah.
year, if it's not there, then I'm starting a protest.
I'm going to contact the mayor, which is probably Wendy, to be honest.
All lines go to Wendy.
She's got to be Tim Shadbolt's deputy, doesn't she? If she's not the mayor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's got a key to the city or something.
With Gail Parata being a head coach overseas, how much, does she have to? I mean, we're talking about the most to prove, but is it that you're thinking, because you mentioned resumes,
Yes.
like in terms of that, bringing that international experience in?
I think that. But for me, it's just more so the franchise that she's going to, because of what they've created there, even all the way down to like what they're doing with the culture and the Waiters and everything, and what I think Yvette and the team have created. I think, Gail coming in and with that wealth of knowledge and experience and coming home, I think for her, and like if you look at her lineup, like Aaliyah Dunn, Amelia Rand Ekanasio, Maddie Gordon, Claire Kirsten, that's their attacking end sorted, right? And then you've got Kelly Drury at the back, and you've got to throw in Whitney Souness as well.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say, if she can't do something with all that, and then also I guess with the pressure of being at the Pulse and what their high standards are, I think, if it doesn't go well, then there'll be questions asked.
Yeah. It'll go okay for her, but she won't make a final with our tactics and stuff.
Yeah.
It'll go okay.
But they are expecting her too.
Well,
you know
after
what I mean?
you rattled off the names, I'm like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
Actually.
You know what?
Why
Yeah,
didn't I pick the
I
Pulse?
need to should have picked the Pulse.
Whoops.
Going for their three-peat. But I did find it interesting because they are back-to-back champions. And then at the launch the other day when I interviewed her, she said she's gotten rid of that phrase three-peat, which is interesting to me because
coming from the Pulse?
yes, and then also as a player, that's what you're striving for. Like we're going 3 in a row, we're going for the three-peat. So I think for the coach to come in and go, we're not going to use that terminology here. Is that almost saying because if it doesn't happen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I thought
The
was
glass half
yeah, exactly. Which I thought that was interesting because I mean,
You're
accept
right.
it. Go for it.
Yeah.
We're going for a three-peat. Yes, we are. Instead of going, oh, we're not using that word anymore. It's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the Crusaders feed off of that in Super Rugby, right?
Yeah.
You know, we've won 2 in a row. We're going for a 3-peat.
Yeah.
We're going for a 4-peat. We're going for a...
I'll wipe
Whatever.
out.
Yeah. We're going to shut down the competition. There's no point in playing because we're so good.
Yeah, stop watching.
Yeah.
And looking at this, I think in terms of your argument with Gail Parata, I do agree. She has a lot on the line. There is a legacy involved. She does have big shoes to fill. And I feel she's been quite fortunate, well, from what I've seen so far from the outside, that she's had the buy-in from the players as well. And coming from overseas, you cannot ignore the plethora of knowledge that she brings with her. And what she did with Scotland, absolutely amazing in terms of their level of netball. So in that case, yes. And, when we think about Gail Parata and her CV and the training that she'd done basically side by side with Nolene,
Yes.
they've got the same qualifications. They're very good friends, had a lot to do with each other over the years. So she hasn't missed out on any of the stuff that our ANZ Premiership coaches have received in seasons gone by since she's been in charge. In terms of what you're saying with Helene, though, I 100% agree with also. She has a lot to prove with a stacked team who, in their own right, should have been in our first argument about being a grand finalist, because they definitely have the star power, the firepower, and with these returning players as well. In saying that, I would have to say Helene Wilson does have more to prove this competition in terms of finally getting the results for her franchise.
Yeah.
Whereas the Pulse are coming from existing results.
I do agree when you were saying, Helene, with your points. I was like, yeah, you
Damn
are
it.
right. No, you're
Yeah.
definitely right. And
Yeah.
it made me think, why haven't they got it right yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make you wonder.
And like, at what point does it fall on the coach, the players, both,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as I said earlier, like we need to get away from, like, I'm probably not going to pick my words right here, but, mollycoddling people and just accepting that, oh, well, you are the coach, so you will be the coach until you decide that you don't want to be the coach any longer.
Yeah.
Like, it's a professional environment, and, results are king. And when you're not getting the results and you've been in the role as long as she has been, then some serious questions need to be asked, and if she can't answer them in this campaign, then I think, she will be in genuine fear for her job security. It's not going to be good enough to be like an also-ran. The Mystics need to be a real threat in the competition for her to have any hope of continuing in that role. And so, it's up to her, it's up to the players to improve, and improve quickly, because unlike last year, they've got to go out on the road and win games. They did that last year against the Pulse, didn't they? They went down to Porirua, I think it was, and gave the Pulse their first loss of the competition.
That's right.
They need that consistency throughout this campaign to basically save Helene Wilson.
Do we need to look at the development of our coaches then? Because if they do get rid of Helene, or if she's no longer their coach, I mean, their assistant coach is Rob Wright, who's from Australia, but he's over there at the moment, who is the brainiest netball brain I've ever worked with, and he's a great coach. So then would he take over? But then also, what's happening with our development of coaches here, especially if we're bringing Gail back from overseas. We're getting coaches from Australia. We've left coaches there for 5 years with no results. Where do we go, or what's happening with the development of our coaches?
Jeez, if she's not careful, Michaela Sokolic-Boxing will be the coach of the Mystics next year.
Top contender.
Yeah.
Definitely, but you bring up a great point. That's right. We are looking offshore for those quality elite coaches. So, what is happening with the pathways, I suppose, which you can see Nolene has been trying to help with along the way. But, and I know that, the likes of Irene van Dijk, Julie Seymour have been trying to, they're National Netball League coaches this year. Temepara, that's right. So, maybe it's time to peak our, our tier below to maybe come back up and see them on the benches with those top tier coaches, perhaps. But 100% agree. Well, that's your point, Goran. Ka pai.
Cool. So I didn't lose today, which is kind of like a Goran Paladin victory on the verdict, you know, when I haven't been schooled 2-0.
One piece of advice though, watch those tomatoes on Monday night when you go out to Trust Arena.
Oh dear.
You didn't think that far ahead, did you?
No, I'll take a raincoat and brolly. Actually, I might be sick on Monday. I might do my report from the car park.
On my phone.
They might not let you in the stadium, to be honest.
Can we do a Zoom call?
Okay. Courtney, thank you so much. Great wisdom, great input into, you know, looking a little bit further into those ANZ Premiership teams. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I loved it.
No worries.
Can't wait to have you back. And as for Goran and I, as always, we'll be back here next week, putting everything in sport on trial. Hei ko ngā mai.